so much for joining us. We are thrilled to have you with us for tonight's Educate to Elevate. As you likely know, we started doing this about 18 months ago and have continued monthly sessions that have nothing to do with on the field X's and O's, but rather exist to help you and your growth as an individual and as a coach. And this is no different. We're going to talk about taking control of your time, which is something none of us have enough of. I think number one genie wish would be more hours in the day. We're going to talk about some strategies and things that have helped along the way and just really answer some questions and share best practices. So encourage you to get active in the chat. Go ahead and feel free to put your questions in there. You can send them to me. I'm Joanna Lane, Senior Director of Education for the NFCA, and that's the National Fast Pitch Coaches Association name in the chat. Or you can put them in for everyone, whatever you wish. If you dropped one in on the registration page, we already have that for you. So don't worry, we will get to it shortly. When you come in the room, you're already on mute, so go ahead and keep your hands off that microphone. That way we can ensure everybody has great audio quality. And we will get going here because I know that you're not listening to me, you're listening to these four awesome panelists. We're going to go around the horn with them, let them introduce themselves, tell you a little bit about what's appealing on this topic for them or what they're working on in their lives, and then we'll get right into the thick of it. So Tim Baghurst is going to lead us off. Tim, I don't know if you were ever a leadoff hitter or not. I think you're more in the racket sports, but thank you so much for being our industry expert on this. And it's great to have you with us tonight.
Thank you, industry expert. I'm going to add that to my resume. That sounds good. Hello, everybody. Thanks for allowing me to be part of this. My name is Tim Baghurst. I'm the director of FSU Coach, which is the Interdisciplinary Center for Athletic Coaching at Florida State University. It's a mouthful. Usually get tongue twisted doing it. We have an online graduate certificate and an online master's in coaching education. But the reason I'm here really is to talk about stress and burnout in coaches, which is something I've been researching and writing about for several years. And of course, time management is a big factor in that.
Thank you so much. Appreciate that. And let's go ahead. David, let's have you go next for us.
Yeah, I'm David Kuhn. I'm the new head softball coach at Mississippi Gulf Coast Community College. Been here about 2 months. Spent the last 13 years at the University of Central Arkansas. Helped that program go through transition to Division I. Spent the 10 years before that at Delta State University in Division II. And then 5-6 years prior to that, I was a high school girls fast pitch coach as well. So that's me.
Thank you so much, David. Appreciate that. And we will move on to Coach Stanton. Shonda?
Thanks, Joanna. Shonda Stanton from Indiana University. And I had to laugh and relook at the title, Taking Control of Your Time, because anybody that knows me knows that I don't do a great job of taking control of my time, but I will tell you that I've never been held hostage by time either. And so I just look forward to engaging in conversation tonight and growing as a coach too. I know I'm going to learn a lot from the other panelists and just even the questions. So I look forward to just having the discussion and dialogue tonight.
Thank you, Coach. Appreciate it. And last but certainly not least, especially because I already botched the alphabetical order, Kim, you're up.
That's okay. Hi, I am Kim Sowder. I'm the head coach at Long Beach State. Been there, this is my 15th year being a head coach, and I was an assistant coach there for 11 years, and I played there. So been at Long Beach State for a long time, and I am on tonight because I had to turn down an offer to speak at one of the NFCA events because of a situation at home. I've become this past year a caretaker for my mom, who is now living with us and being a head coach. So Joanna had reached out and thought it'd be a good topic that I'm still trying to figure out the work-life balance, but certainly I've learned a lot and look forward to sharing and learning from everybody here. Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much. It's our pleasure. And I think that's one of the main things that, people think of immediately is the things that take your time, and they forget about other items. It goes immediately to work and kids, and that's not always true. Your time can be taken in so many different ways. And so, we're going to get right into the questions here. And this is a fun one. Because I think it's so applicable. But the question is, I feel like I'm running empty after the pandemic, just running on empty. How can I refuel? So Tim, the beauty of being the expert is you get to go first a lot. So when you hear that somebody's running on empty, what advice would you give them? And how do you explain ways that you can move forward?
Yeah, thanks for putting me on the spot with the straight up question. This is a hard one. And I think this is not something that just coaches are experiencing, right? I'll be the first to confess that this January I was done, and I even called my boss and just said, I'm doggy paddling right now, and if you give me any more work, I'm going to drown. And part of that is a recognition of where you're at before you try to find solutions. If you keep thinking, well, I'll manage through, I've muddled through so far, I'll be fine, I've just got to grind, I've just got to keep at it. At some point, that will all that house of cards, so to speak, will crumble. So recognizing when you're starting to reach that point is key. There are a couple things that I would recommend, and one of them is through the organization that you work with, whether it be the university, college, travel team, et cetera, even NFCA. What resources do they have to help you? And I'm not talking about counselors, et cetera. I'm talking about what ways can they help you maybe learn more time management skills, or learn how to balance the role of being a parent or a spouse, have a full-time job for real, and then you're doing softball on the side. How do you balance those things? So understanding that there are organizations that can help with this, or you can ask them for help with this, as opposed to just expecting to solve that problem yourself. The other one, and everybody listening now or in future will recognize continuing education is a big one too, in understanding, okay, I can learn from others. I can talk to others and learn from others. How do I take away something from this that benefits me and isn't just a waste of time? And hopefully this isn't. Within the organizational structure, though, connecting with a mentor is a big one. And we talk about networking. There's a big difference between networking for the sake of knowing people and networking to have a relationship where you can help them and they can help you. And that's a big difference, where maybe I have a coach I can be open with, or an athletic director or somebody where I can be really open and honest, versus, oh yeah, I know them. They work at X, Y, and Z place and I have their email address. So when we talk about mentorship, we're talking about having a deep relationship where you can say, Joanna, I'm about done. I need help. Here's the situation I'm in. What should I drop? There's personal ways to reduce it, and I don't want to get into that now because I don't want to talk too long. But I do want to provide the analogy of balloons, and I've told my students this: when we think about priorities, we think about a balloon that's full of air, and in that is us. Well, what are our priorities? Softball, job, family, maybe a hobby, maybe religion, whatever it is. Our air in our balloon has to go into these other balloons. And we can't fill up every balloon. We have a limited amount of air, and that air being us. So we have to prioritize, where does that air go? And we have to recognize that there's seasons where we may have to take some air out of family and put it into softball because we're in season. But when we get to off season, maybe we got to pull some of that out and say, you know what, I'm not going to invest the same amount of time that I did during season, and I'm going to put that back into my family, et cetera. And I think if you look at it as the analogy of, we are limited, so if we have to prioritize, I think that helps quite a lot.
Thank you, Tim. And, Shonda, I've heard you talk before about the spinning plates. And, I know that you've been in a few places where you felt, I'm sure, this whole I'm on the edge here, right? How do you know? How do you know when you're about on empty, and how do you refill?
Yeah, and I would agree with Tim that, I think everybody's experiencing fatigue coming out of COVID. And, for some of us, it was kind of a blessing in disguise being home. I didn't realize how much I missed out on. But, Joanna, when you're talking about the spinning plates or the balls, we're all juggling a number of balls. And for me, I'm learning as I get older, what is the most important ball is kind of my glass ball, because the other ones will bounce back. When you're juggling balls and you drop them, they're going to bounce back. And so I make sure right now that I'm taking care of whatever that glass ball is that I'm juggling. So for me right now, it's my kids. I've missed a lot, in their lives. I've had an army of people that have come alongside of us. But it's been really nice to just sit and watch soccer games, and I'll go, my daughter's double rostered. So I'll sit there for a JV game and a varsity game, and I'll do nothing but sit and just watch the crazy parents. That's been kind of fun too. And so my glass ball is my family right now. And I got an incredible staff, and they help with all the other balls. When they bounce, they're picking them up for me. So I think it's really relying on the people. I think Tim touched briefly on connection as well. I think as a coach, it's so important for us to find connections, and whatever that looks like. I think of you, Kim, being at home and, and caregiving for your mom. Gosh, I hope you get some time where you are able to connect and get your cup filled as well. Cause, gosh, what a labor of love for you. And I know for me, it's been as simple as I joined a women's group, and there's about 5 of us women that get together on a Thursday morning. And we're not even going through a particular study. We're just kind of getting together and talking as women and what we're experiencing. And I had to laugh. One of the women, she has MS and she's in a chair, and she was just saying how she can't keep up with her house and it's such a mess. And I offered to clean her house. And so I called my husband and I said, hey, any chance you can have her husband over tonight? I'm going to clean their house. And he laughed and he said, what about cleaning our house? I think, you just got to be okay if the house is a mess. And I think you just really got to, for me, the priority right now is, taking care of my family and connecting. So I know when I'm juggling all those balls, I know which one the glass ball is, and I'm connecting, once a week, 9 to 11 on Thursday morning, I'm really getting filled up. So I encourage all of our listeners, whatever that looks like, whether it's, dog walking, whether it's getting an exercise class, a women's group, a men's group, whatever that looks like, a cooking class, I just encourage you to find connection at this point in time.
Thank you very much, Coach. Appreciate that. David, have you ever felt that I'm about out of gas here? And what did you do to renew yourself?
Yeah, try moving. I know a lot of coaches move in the summer, and we moved, 7-8 hours away, but it was 2 24-foot U-Hauls on 2 different occasions, and moving our youngest daughter out of our house, helping our oldest daughter move. So it was a bit overwhelming the past 2 months, it seemed like. And, you just got to step back and slow down and realize, hey, what's important? Getting everything unpacked is not right away is not the most important thing. Finding where the balls are for practice, finding where the bats are, where's the study hall. The biggest thing for me is just having a routine. And just that's been the biggest thing that always helps me stay calm, get grounded, and have balance. Whether it's getting up about the same time every morning and taking some quiet time, me and my wife. And, I used to walk every single day, and I haven't for the past 2 months. And this week I said to my wife, hey, it's time for me to do something. I used to run. I don't like running anymore, but I love to walk. And I said, I've got to do something. The John Gordon thank you walks, just go out and be appreciative of everything and that God has given us. And, trying to be glass half full all the time, because it's easy to say, I need this, I need that, I need this, we need to do this, versus, hey, I have this, because I find myself being an older coach now. It seems like yesterday I was 30, today I'm 52. And now I'm always trying to, instead of being the one, we need this, I'm like, hey, we got a roof over our head. Hey, we've got, 10 bats. We don't really need 20. Hey, we've got 2 jerseys. We don't need 5. So I think just, and like Tim mentioned, mentors have been the biggest thing for me, reaching out all across the board, men, women, in the college and pros and high schools, athletic directors, preachers, just not trying to do it myself, to tell somebody, hey, I'm struggling with this. what is wrong with me? And then, to have people like Glenn Moore or Beth Torino go, hey, I'm going through the same thing, or my mentor say, hey, I've been there, so just be transparent and stay in a routine. And our family motto has always been, don't make an excuse. My girls still say it, they're 25 and 26, and I'll ask them if they did something and they're like, I didn't make time. I'm like, did you get your car insurance now that daddy's out of state? And one of them said, yes, I took care of it. Another one said, I haven't made time, sir. So you got to make time for what's important.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. Kim, how about you? Have you noticed a time when you felt on the edge and had to find a way to refuel yourself?
Yeah, definitely. It was challenging just, with my mom moving in and being a caretaker for her and starting back up at work. There were times where I had to, miss something, and I not a person that ever misses. So at first it was a little bit stressful, but what I really learned is I shared this information. I shared, with my team how important it was for me to be able to, take care of my mom and, still be a coach and let them know that I was still going to be there full time. But I think it was good because we're role models, and if we're feeling it, I'm sure they're feeling it too. And I think a lot of times they felt relieved when maybe I couldn't be there, and it was like, okay, coach is human, and she has things that, are really important to her. And sometimes, work might have to take a back seat, and that's okay. And I think everybody has those things in their life, whether it's caretaking or you have kids or you have, dogs, whatever it is that's important, to people. I think it just taught me a lot about being approachable. I was more approachable to the team, and just being vulnerable, letting people know kind of your situation and not being afraid to ask for help. That was something that I learned. And I think the most important thing that I've learned is you really have to focus on the get to instead of have to. I'm so lucky to be able to get to take care of my mom and be in a situation I don't have to, but I have a family that is supportive and wants to help me do that. I have a job that I get to do. I don't have to do it. And that's probably the biggest reminder is I get to do these things, and I stay grateful. Remember that when things are a little bit stressful, share your situation with coworkers, because there's a lot of people going through the same thing. You think it's only you and you're the only one, and really everybody is going through that stuff. So I think just sharing things, and the whole Zoom situation is definitely helpful. I think we learned a lot that we can do with Zoom. I mean, we all much rather be in person, but when you can do different things at home and finding that balance. But I think another thing that's important, that you kind of have to be a little selfish sometimes and take care of you, so that you can be the best for everybody else. If you're not taking care of yourself, you're not in a good place. How am I going to be good for my team? How am I going to be good for my family? And I watched my mom be a caretaker and 24/7 with my dad, and it just it took everything out of her. And I've tried to learn that having a balance of a lot of different things with social, with work, and being able to take care of her, those things are good for me. It's good to have distractions and not have everything in one, all filled in one cup, because I don't think that's what the message we want to send to to the players we're coaching, and it's okay to not be perfect or not be at everything. So I feel like it's really taught me a lot. I don't have all the answers yet and not as organized as I'd like to be for sure, but those are kind of the things that I've learned, and I again, get to versus have to is a big reminder for me.
Absolutely, and a great way to frame it. And Tim, I'm curious, and it come back to you. When you work with coaches, have you seen coaches who are burned out and don't even know it?
Yeah, of course. I think a lot of coaches are struggling with this, especially through the COVID, as I like to call it. We've definitely seen coaches, maybe before COVID, before the pandemic, experiencing the stress of winning, of dealing with parents, of dealing with boosters, of travel, of being away from home. Then we saw a little shift where all of a sudden coaches are told, hey, you're not going anywhere. And for a lot of coaches, we saw, this isn't too bad. I kind of like being at home. And it almost in some ways rejuvenated coaches who maybe hadn't been able to spend as much time with their families, who had been on the road and so on. But what we've seen since the transition back to quote unquote normal life, and that's a loose term right now, but what we've seen is coaches are then expected to be, oh, you're now back to what you're supposed to be pre-pandemic, but with all these conditions attached. And it's added that extra layer of responsibility, of obligation, of care. Coaches then are, okay, that's another thing I've got to put on my plate. And we talked about the balls and the spinning plates. And if a coach doesn't sit down and evaluate what they're doing on a day-to-day basis, they can't determine themselves whether they are stressed, and that stress leading to burnout. And I want to qualify stress versus burnout. We all experience stress in a variety of different ways, whether it's family, relationships, job, our sports, whatever. But it's the culmination of that stress without the method to reduce it that causes burnout. So we're going to all experience stress, right? As coaches, we do experience stress. But what is the thing that helps us, or what are the things that help us reduce it so that it's manageable and we're okay with it? That is the challenge. And if we don't have those methods in place, that stress compounds itself until we do experience burnout. And burnout is usually a very public and hard thing to go through. And a lot of times coaches will be done with sports. They won't come back from that experience. So really it is a culmination of that stress without methods to reduce or manage it. That's the problem.
Thank you very much. One question we got, I thought was a great one, is what are some strategies I can use to remain present? And David, I want to start with you because you talked about taking the walk, and it sounded to me as you were talking that that's a really great opportunity for you to be present in your day. Are there other ways that you work on being present? And don't worry, everybody, I'm coming to you too, so you can start preparing now.
I'm such a creature of habit. The biggest thing for me is a routine. Like I said, we have weights Monday, Wednesday, Friday at 6 a.m. So those are the days where I'm looking at the alarm clock every hour to make sure that I get up, because I just feel like my kids have to be there. I need to be there, and that's to each his own. I don't judge anybody for that, because everybody's like, you don't have to be there. I'm like, well, I just don't believe in asking somebody to do something I wouldn't do. That's, I'm there watching them, and again, it's just a routine. And when I find myself getting stressed out, it's time to just step away, go outside, look at the grass, look at the field, grab my cat Boo right here. She's a good stress reliever, as most everybody. I think that was Kim's dogs we heard earlier. They always love us. Just the biggest thing is to realize that I got into coach. I always wanted to coach. That's all I ever wanted to do. It didn't matter, football, baseball, basketball, softball. But as you get older, you realize our job is to give these kids a positive experience, be a positive influence. I wasn't always that, and I'm certainly not always that. But when I always get back to, hey, what's the main thing we're doing here? You know, I want them to have a great experience. I want them to look back and go, hey, I want my siblings to play for Coach Q, and I want my siblings to go there. I want my family. I want to recommend people. So we've got to just stay focused, being who we are. Like I like Kim talking about her transparency, letting them see who you really are, and understanding that, you know, we're not always just the coach, that we're a person too. Just be yourself, be transparent, have a routine, let them see who you really are. You know, and just remember, at the end of the day, yeah, some of us are in places we've got to win. That's the name of the game. Some of us aren't, but at the end of the day, it's about impacting lives and making a difference in somebody's lives. And like Tim's talking, you know, there's a lot of, it's not just us coaches going through a lot of things. These kids are going through a lot of things. I'm teaching a class, and, you know, part of it's all in class, marriage and family sociology class, and they're supposed to do some of their work online, and some of them haven't done any of it. And I asked one the other day, hey, you're at every class, you haven't done anything. Well, I know. Well, I don't know what that person's going through, you know, so I'm sending emails to what I call civilian population. Hey, you need to take this test. Hey, you need to take this quiz. I mean, we've got to take care of each other. That's number one. Our human nurturing is the number one thing. I'm probably rambling, getting off task.
No problem. Absolutely. You know, Shonda, what's the first thing you think of when you hear staying present and strategies to be present?
Well, punctuation is a funny thing. Anybody that gets a text from me, it's like all words and there's no punctuation. And sometimes they get a little bit confused. And I think punctuation is there to help, whether it's a period, you know, an exclamation point. It's not to, I was reading a book last week, it's not to disrupt the flow, but it's to enhance it. And I think us taking pause here tonight and being fully present, you know, how we take pause in this space really opens up how we enter our next space. And I think for me, somebody who constantly is running from one thing to the next, as I grow, I am getting better at honoring that pause. And I think if we can just resist the rush, I've always been, gosh, years ago, you know, I'd pick my kids up from school and I'd run home, and my sitter, it would like stress her out that 5 minutes that I was home, you know, shouting out what everybody needed to do. And she probably couldn't wait for me to get out the door because everything was a rush. And so I think right now, just really giving yourself permission to resist the rush. I think understanding, honor that pause, understand punctuation is there for a point. I mean, just today I sent a text on the group me, and I show up at practice, and our kids in their pre-routine warm-up, they had flipped it. And I'm thinking, did you guys not read my text? And then I went back and read the text. I had no punctuation, and I understand why it wasn't clear. And so I think it really is important for us to put that period on our life of wherever we are, to be fully present, and then really to live by kind of what's important now. And that's something that I always try and focus on, since I don't really do a great job of taking control of the time. But I would encourage everybody to just really honor the pause, you know, resist the rush, and use punctuation.
Thank you very much. Everybody in my office wishes I knew how to use commas a little bit more appropriately than run-on sentence, which just, you know, life too. Kim, how about you? What are ways that you use to stay present every day?
Well, that's definitely something that's very challenging, but just, you know, while I'm at work, I try to just remember how important it is to be a good listener. And I am a horrible multitasker. So it's really important for me to try to be as present as I can. Probably at work and at home, the best thing that I can do is put my phone away. And especially at home, I try to, you know, at least put the phone away for at least an hour and just be present, because as a coach, it's hard to turn it off. I mean, you're just constantly trying to think of ways to do things for the next day, and it's sometimes you get home and you're talking to your kids or your husband or wife, and you're just, you feel yourself not even being there. And I just think trying to put the phone down for me is the best way to take away from getting distracted and being present. Don't have a phone at practice, you know, and just not looking at the messages coming in, and just really trying to be a good listener. Don't have great strategies. I think that putting the phone away is the most important thing for me. That seems to be the most distracting thing that, you know, will take my attention away from what I'm, you know, currently doing.
Thank you very much. Tim, anything to add that you talk to students about?
Yeah, I would agree with everything that's been said so far, especially the phone. I took a group of students to Haiti a few years back and banned phones. And one of the comments that I continually got was, I got so much done. I was able to think because I wasn't always on my phone. It's a big one. You know, if you go to the dentist or a chiropractor or anywhere where you have to lay down, I've actually found those times, believe it or not, kind of, until they start working on me, kind of relaxing. Why? Because all my stuff is put away. I'm in a room by myself and I'm laying down and I'm like, this is kind of nice. I'm enjoying this. Well, okay, I don't really want to be at the dentist office enjoying being in a dentist chair, but how can I replicate that at home? And what I've tried to do is try to find space within the day where I can just take 5 minutes. Doesn't have to be a long time, just 5 minutes where I can go sit outside in the chair or whatever, away from everything, and just sit and enjoy just the quietness and peacefulness of being away from everybody and everything. Now, any of us with families know that doesn't last very long because, hey, daddy, what are, you know, X, Y, and Z. But making that effort to just, okay, for 5 minutes, I'm just going to have some me time where I don't interact with other people. I don't interact with my electronics. I just get away. The other thing that I try to do, and again, it depends on the drivers around me, I don't turn on anything when I drive to work. So I leave everything silent when I'm driving to and from work. And that allows me some time to just think. And that for me is very useful. Sure, I want to turn on the radio. I want to sing some songs, but for me to reflect on the day of what's coming or the day that just happened allows me to decompress a little bit, especially as I'm coming home, so that by the time I get home, I've kind of processed things that maybe I wanted to go through. And then when I'm home rather than still carrying those things with me.
Thank you very much. Kim, I'm going to start with you on this one. And you've talked about this a little bit already, but what's the best way to manage a staff to ensure that you're not doing double the work and in terms of delegating?
I am very fortunate to have had the same staff in place. My associate head coach has been with me for 13 years, and she played at Long Beach State, and my other assistant here for 4 years. So we kind of have things in place as far as who's in charge of what. We kind of organized it by, whoever, everyone's really good at different things. And, I have one coach that's really good with a lot of computer stuff, paperwork stuff, and does a lot of the office stuff. I have one that just can't get enough of being on the field and doing 24/7 of that. And so I just, when I saw that topic, I was like, I probably need to revisit and kind of make sure no one is overloaded and we're kind of all doing the same thing. Because I'm lucky that we've been together and we all know kind of each other's roles right now. So, I think having that continuity is something that I probably haven't had to work as hard at. We did probably at the beginning, but I think just, doing this reminded me to kind of take a look at it and make sure, nobody's overloaded, or, is there something that someone else could probably, we're kind of, set in our ways right now. So.
Sure. Well, one thing that isn't true right now for David is the continuity. We were talking a little bit before we got started of, 10 years here, 13 years here, and oh, hey, I'm brand new and I'm back in the football concession stand. So how are you delegating right now that you don't have as big of a staff?
Yeah, well, I went from having Jenny Parsons, who'd been with me 10 years, and Chris Watford, who'd coached in high school, and he's been with me at Delta State and UCA. So we had over about 30, 40 years together to, I've got Caitlin Lee, who pitched at Ole Miss, and Brad Grinstead, who came from junior college, who actually coached my daughters in summer ball about 7, 8 years ago. So yeah, we've got a brand new staff, got some good continuity with Brad, having known him for the last 7, 8, 9 years, and knowing his strengths and weaknesses. Caitlin, I didn't know very well, but I knew of her, and I had some friends that knew her. So the biggest thing with the new staff, it's kind of getting to know everybody's strengths and weaknesses, and knowing, putting people in positions to be successful. That's the biggest thing. There was a time when I was that guy that Kim was talking about, wanted to be out on the field mowing, weed eating, edging, and fertilizing. And right now, I really don't make that time to do that. Fortunately, Brad loves that. And he went from being a head coach to an assistant coach. So he's loving being on a tractor 24/7. He thinks he's Jed Clampett now. Caitlin is wondering how we know how to operate this machinery, but spending just an enormous amount of times with the pitchers, teaching, very enthusiastic young coach. It's good to have around. We're all different backgrounds. You just gotta, roll with everything, and it's neat, to see different personalities mesh and get along. And not all of us like to get up in the morning and be at weights. And I'm like, hey, you don't have to be here. I mean, don't be here just because I'm here. Don't just because I'm out here mowing grass or weeding. You don't have to be it used to be 30, 40 years ago, maybe when I started, if the boss was there, you were there. Because I grew up early as a football coach, and everybody's got to be in the weight room, and everybody's got to fight over the magic marker and draw on the board and be there from 7 to 10. Well, I was looking at that softball field going, I need to go mow the field. I know it's not softball season. So you got to delegate what's important, hire people. I've always tried to hire people smarter than me, and that's not very hard for me to do. But that's been some of the best advice I've ever done, is hire people smarter than me, people that things I'm not good at, make sure I get people that can do that. Always have a good young coach around to handle all the tech going on in the world. Because I'm like, there was a time I was like, what's Google Drive? What is Dropbox? And, I remember sending my first text one time in the early 2000s, like, what are y'all talking about? So it's just getting to know each other. The more you get to know each other, the more time you can spend together and discover each other's strengths and weaknesses. You can balance them out.
Thank you very much. And Shonda, a little different direction on this, with 2 younger assistants, and they've been with you for a long time, but what are ways that you make sure that they're not delegated to so much that they don't get to enjoy their own balance?
Yeah, I think just encouraging them to communicate. I've been fortunate to have both Shonda and Kendall with me for 9 years. This is, I think, our 9th season. We spent 4 at Marshall together, and then going on our 5th year here at Indiana. And they know full well that I'm not a mind reader. And there are times that I think I've been able to read the room. And, we were just talking the other day, it was Kendall's birthday. And so I picked up a pizza, and I tried to get them to go to lunch and be a little bit late to practice, and they wouldn't do it. So I went and picked up pizza, and we sat down in right field, and we had a picnic while the team was warming up. And so we just were asking questions, and I said to Kendall, give me a memorable, gift that you had gotten, through the years as an adult. And she said, that one time you sent us down to the Greenbrier, we had a really rough week at Marshall. There were just a lot of things going on, just with the people that we were coaching, and a lot of time that was being taken. And so I just sent the 3 of them on a trip and said, get away for 36 hours. And I can handle, the fort. There are so many things that are important, but really only one thing can be the most important. So I think as a coach, you got to evaluate, what's most important, handle those things. But, if their tank's not full, then they're not going to be able to operate and be able to help you in the program. And so I think just kind of having a pulse and a gut check. And if they're not real good at communicating with you, we've been together long enough that they'll tell me when it's like, hey, we need a day off, or we need some time, or we just kind of ebb and flow well, where it's like, hey, I won't be in the morning, I'm going to work from home. So we're not in any awkward stages. But I think for some of us that are delegating with staffs, you got to be able to ask the focused questions and be able to ask, what do you need? Because they're probably not going to really feel comfortable immediately to come out and say, hey, you know what, I could use some time. It was no different. Chanda's here close to home, Indy's home. And so she can shoot up to Indy pretty quickly, whereas Kendall's from California. And so, we were getting ready to come back after nationals. And I said to Kendall, hey, we're not going to need you. There's a workout there for next week. Why don't you stay out there for another week? And she was really appreciative of that. Got to spend some extra time with her niece. Sure, I could have had her fly back out to Indiana and then fly back out to California, a little while later. But I think you just got to really read your room and understand what's important to each of your staff members, and come alongside of them, because they may not be quick to say, hey, I could use a day, or can I do this? So, you don't have to be a mind reader, but open that dialogue and that communication.
Thank you. Tim, one question that we get a lot is that coaches who are young, maybe don't have a family, constantly feel like they're filling the void for coaches who maybe do have a family or other responsibilities, and they don't get the time off they need. Have you seen in your research and working with coaches generational differences, or things that we're starting to see right now? I can't remember what it is. I think it's 5 different generations that are in the workplace, or something crazy right now. But and where maybe head coaches aren't providing the assistance with what they need to make sure that they're operating with the full tank?
Yeah, I heard this week from a coach that the current generation of young coaches are soft. That was what I was told. They're soft, i.e., they don't work 80 hours a week, or don't want to work 80 hours a week. And I worked 80 hours a week to get where I got. So why shouldn't you work 80 hours a week to get where you want to get? And this is a particular problem, those of you who are in college with graduate assistants who feel like it's some kind of rite of passage that I have to burn the candle at both ends, because if I don't, the head coach or the coach who oversees me isn't going to give me a good recommendation, and then I'm not going to get the job that I want when I graduate from college. Unfortunately, there is almost an understood expectation that when you come in as a graduate student, or when you come in as a young assistant or volunteer, you are responsible, or you are expected to do this. The problem, as we know, is that when young coaches are asked to do that, they may be putting in a lot of time, but how much of it is actually productive? And it becomes almost a medal of honor that I spent X number of hours at the office. I slept at the office last night. Can you believe that? Et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Because it's some kind of like award for effort, as opposed to, can coaches teach their assistants or the young coaches coming through, can they teach them time management? Can they delegate jobs that are more within, as somebody said, I think it was David, find what their strengths and weaknesses are, and then ask them to work within their strengths, which makes them more efficient in the first place. So if I'm a head coach and I want my assistant to do X, Y, and Z technology because I don't like doing that stuff, well, who's to say that the coach has those skills? If they don't, they have to go learn those skills. Now it takes an enormous amount of time, versus finding somebody who has those skills or is interested in doing that. So the answer is yes. And I'm going to kind of just add on to that in what everyone else was discussing. As leaders, most of us got to a leadership position by doing a lot of things. And we did it because I'm going to do it myself, because I know if I do it myself, it's going to be done right. Agreed? I think most of us can agree. I'm just going to do it myself. You know what? Just let me do it. The problem with that is that we never teach anybody else how to do it. And then guess who always has to do it? Us. And it becomes we become responsible for solving a lot of problems when others in our staff can solve those problems if we've allowed them the opportunity to do it. So 2 things I would suggest those of you who are in leadership positions. Number 1 is delegate. Delegate within strengths and weaknesses, but not just within strengths, because it may be a weakness because that person's never had the opportunity to learn what to do or how to do it. So be willing to delegate. And number 2, be willing to allow that person to fail, not repeatedly, but they have to learn how to do it. And we don't expect our athletes to get it perfect first time. It takes time to learn skills. Expect your coaches or assistant coaches, whoever works with you, it's going to take time for them to handle booking hotel rooms or, recruiting practices or et cetera, et cetera. It will take time, but if you put in that time now, yes, they may fail a time or 2 or need improvement over the course of 1 or 2 tries, but eventually they can take on that responsibility, freeing you up from it. So invest the time early, delegate, be willing to let them fail, and ultimately that takes some of the load off your responsibilities as well.
Thank you. And Shonda, I want to come back to you and build off of what Tim said. I don't think it's just about the assistant coaches either, but also our athletes. What are some ways that, you and your program start talking to your athletes about time management, what it looks like, taking care of themselves, being balanced, et cetera? And how is it different now than it was 10, 15 years ago?
Not even 10, 15 years ago, but I would say just even pre-COVID and post-COVID. I think if we're running around right now and just spending all our time on X's and O's, we're missing the boat. I know we got back, we went this weekend on Saturday. We had a chance to go up and watch Athletes Unlimited play. And then we practiced on the field, spent the night, played a doubleheader on Sunday and came back. I was pretty fatigued on Monday. And I think it was just not being in the routine. And I sit on a bucket for most of the day. So I can't imagine how our young people feel. And so if I was so worried, and we don't take Mondays off because we want them to get back in the weight room. We take Tuesdays off, but we were very conscious on Monday because I know how exhausted I was about what Monday looked like. And that we gave them some time to just kind of have an unwind practice, we get out, get a little hitting in, get in their leadership groups and kind of have a discussion of what we needed the week to look like. And so I think as coaches, we got to be really mindful. Our job is to read the dials. And, obviously I'm fortunate to be in Indiana. I've got a ton of resources and, as a coach, I think if I can be very present and reading the dials and seeing what they need, then we can reach out to the appropriate people to help them provide the resources that they can take advantage of. There's a ton of people in their corner. And so I think it's really important right now that we focus on relationships, that we focus on connection, that we focus on what they value and what they want this experience to look like. The competitive aspect of it, you're going to take care of as a coach, right? We all want to win. And so you're going to be prepared and you're going to take care of, what it takes to improve their skill set. But man, if you aren't right now taken care of, I think mental health is at an all-time high. And if you aren't really focusing on what that looks like for each kid, we're all on a spectrum of, maybe I just need a little bit of encouragement or I'm having a bad day to, maybe some severe depression. And so I think it's really important for us as coaches to be really keyed in and tuned in to what that looks like for our kids. And so that's kind of our focus right now is cohesion. And that's what we're spending all of our time on in fall ball, outside of teaching our system and our process, it's, having a cohesive team. We looked up, there's over 650 clubs on campus here at IU. We don't want to be a club. We want to be a competitive Division I program in the Big Ten, that's fighting for titles and fighting to get to postseason. With that being said, we do want to be a group of people that cares about each other, that loves each other, supports each other, celebrates each other. And so that's our focus right now is just team cohesion and kind of where our kids are.
Thank you, Coach. Kim, are there things that you do with your program to help your student athletes understand time management? And, I know you're not in team practice yet, but that's something I'm guessing you've done a lot for freshmen. Is it different now with everybody?
Yeah, I agree with Shonda. Just we are spending a lot more time having discussions and kind of getting to know each other and just making sure that we're a family and we're kind of taking care of each other. And kind of have a pulse of, what's going on with each player. I know we just had this discussion today about, the testing for strength testing, conditioning test, all that. Do we kind of had to ease into it, and you have to have a little bit more patience because, I mean, even though we got to play last year, they still haven't done the fitness that they are used to, that year off, the year and a half off that they had. Our strength coaches have been great with saying, nope, they wouldn't allow it. They made us come in at a, a little bit lower level. And we were talking about today, well, maybe, over winter break, we can start to elevate that again. But you can tell that, it does take time to get back to the level that we were at pre-COVID, and just everything, balancing school, and we haven't even been able to do everything, community service and a lot of those things that we're used to doing. We've kind of, we're easing back into a lot of things to help them not put too much on their plate all at once, because I think we all feel it, and we learned during COVID so much of kind of slowing down a little bit and not trying to do too much. So we've been spending a lot of time in the locker room talking about culture, and just doing a lot of check-ins with our student athletes to make sure they're okay, and they're looking out for one another. But yeah, we haven't gotten to our 20 hours, but I still feel it like it's a lot even in the 8 hours. So
absolutely. David, a little bit of a different question for you, having been there before, and then Tim, I'll ask you the same, but what about people whose primary job is not coaching? You can throw back the clock, when you first started and as a high school coach, and what was that like, trying to balance, the other parts of life that weren't, maybe the main breadwinning side of what you were doing?
Well, that's the saying everybody uses now is be where your feet are. And I like that a lot. I see a lot of people tweet it. Caitlin has said it several times this week about a couple of our kids. And, when I was a high school teacher and coach, obviously I was hired first as a teacher. So from 7 a.m. to 2 o'clock in the afternoon, I was teaching, history and constitutional law and sociology. And that was the most important thing at the time. And during lunch duty, you better be there. And at the end of the day, you better be making sure kids are in class. And once in a while, I get stir crazy and the principal go, Coach Kuhn, why aren't you in your class? And I was like, well, my stomach hurts. You got to focus and be where you're supposed to be when you're supposed to be there. One of my old bosses always said, be where you're supposed to be when you're supposed to be there. And, it's, and I've got some good friends that, their primary job might be in law enforcement or something else, and they're junior college coaches or they're D1 or D2 coaches. And it's, when they're doing their civilian job, they're 100% invested in it. When they're coaching, I've had volunteer assistants that worked their regular paying job 5 a.m. in the morning to 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and always text me, hey, coming in hot, Top Gun, driving in the parking lot, and drop everything and go right in it for the next 2.5, 3 hours and give me everything they got. So I think the biggest thing is where you are, invest, put your time in it, go hard. But again, you've got to realize too, when it's like Coach Stanton was saying, you got to tell them sometimes, hey, back off, slow down. What do you need? I've got a staff member's fixing to get married here October 23rd. And I had to tell him the other day, hey, stay and spend some time with your fiance. She just drove up, 3 hours. You don't come in at 6 o'clock and sit in the office till 10 a.m. and leave and go feed your dogs. Come in later. Are you sure? Is that okay? I'm like, yeah, that's okay. So, just be in the present, be in the moment. A lot of us, I don't feel like just coaching softball is my main job. Some days it's people management. Some days it's, it's leadership. Some days it's listening. I tell everybody, my favorite part of the day is 1 to 5 when I'm hitting fungo and throwing BP and saying, hum babe, here we go. But, there's a lot more that goes into it, and we all know. So whether it's ordering equipment or washing laundry or hanging up jerseys, you just got to embrace all of it, every part of it.
Thank you very much. Tim, anything you want to add on coaches that are trying to balance 2 careers essentially?
Yeah, time management is huge. And Joanna, is it possible to share my screen? Am I allowed to do, can I do that?
Yeah, let me get you a co-host here and make sure you're good to go. Should be set.
All right. I just wanted to share this with everybody, and I found it quite useful in my career, and it's actually called the Eisenhower Matrix, because supposedly Eisenhower was well known for his ability to get things done on a daily basis. And he developed this matrix that I use. It's not something I stick on my wall, but it's something I remember when I'm trying to decide, what do I need to do today? What do I need to get done? And you can see there's up at the top, it's urgent, not urgent, and then important, not important, in terms of what do I need to get done today? Is it handle emails? Is it resolve this situation that is going on right now? Is it I need to book those hotel rooms? Where do these fit in this scale? And if I can start to look at what I need to get done in the day, I can then decide which ones I need to really focus on that are the do. I need to get these done. I've got 2 hours. These are the do's, as opposed to the delegate, the schedule, or even the delete. And yes, there are some deletes. And I would add, if anyone out there is handling a full-time job and is coaching on the side, or sometimes even more, there has to be some deletes. There has to be times where you as a coach say no. And that's really hard, because sometimes we get great opportunities, whether it's to be a guest speaker, right? At 8 p.m. Eastern. Yeah, I would love to. And then I have to think, well, okay, where does this fit on the scale for my responsibilities for my job? How does it affect my family, et cetera? Okay, this is something I need to do. Why? Because it's at 8 p.m. I don't have a choice. But there are things where we say, no, you know what, that opportunity is great, but I don't think it's the right time for me to focus on that, because I have other responsibilities within my job, coaching, family, et cetera. So that time management is crucial. Joanna knows this, but I regularly interview people, usually about once a week, who are working sports, about their experiences in sports and what they've learned. And it's called FSU Coach Live. It's on YouTube. Joanna's going to be a guest. I know she's already committed, but one of the key things that somebody once said in there, and said, our most precious commodity is time, because it's not something we can get back. We have to therefore be careful how we use it. And when we think about our families, when we think about the time that we invest in our sports, the time we invest in our job, are we putting so much into something that maybe doesn't give us what we need back? Are we putting so much time into all of these things that it's causing us to slowly burn out? These are the questions that you have to ask yourself. I found the Eisenhower Matrix pretty helpful for me, just in terms of getting things done on a daily basis and really focusing my time. But really it's that understanding that time is precious, and so I need to use it. I'll also add, one of the things that we talk about with athletes is they need to rest, right? You need to take some time off. You need to rest. And most athletes that I've worked with don't like that term. They don't want to use the word rest. Someone else is working out. I should be working out too. Active recovery is what I recommend using. And I tried to get them and build it into their plan of, look, this isn't rest. This is, you're recovering from something. Well, do we have that in our schedules? Do we have that time where we actively recover from the rigors of the day, from the rigors of the season? If we don't have these things in place, then it becomes very difficult for us to continue season after season after season.
Oh, for sure. And, that leads me to a great segue to the question that you didn't even know existed. So thanks for that, Tim. But I'm going to, Kim, bring this to you. What can you do to reset from a bad day off the field before you get to the field? So as a coach, you're not bringing your bad day into a practice setting.
I think just like we kind of tell our players, you got to rebound fast and learn from every situation and make that bad day or tough day, a blessing. Find ways that you can learn. It happened for a reason. And I think just staying positive, stay positive and, just try to learn from each situation. I talk a lot about being contagious in a good way. We still use the energy bus to this day, from John Gordon. So I need to, I have to be that way. And that's the way I want to be. I don't like to dwell on anything. I think, being grateful, taking your gratitude walks. You can't be stressed and blessed or grateful at the same time. So sometimes you gotta, just stop and focus on the things that you're grateful for, keep it in perspective, learn from the situation, and it doesn't do any good to dwell on it, and just it's all a choice. And I think that's what we, what we're trying to teach our players. And so just, trying to learn and be grateful, I think, and having that mindset is important, and the way you're going to get back on track the fastest.
Great point. And John Gordon's getting some love right now in this episode. So I'm going to have to reach out to him about sponsoring our Educate to Elevate session. We love him at the NFCA. He's done some stuff for us before, and always recommend his books, but we'll throw this to him and make sure he knows. Shonda, question specifically for you in the chat. How do you continue to strengthen and stay in touch with your faith, especially during the busiest time of the year?
I think realizing that I fail often and regularly, and I just get right back up. And, I think I have a pretty good handle on what's important to me, my faith, my family. But I think that has to do with time spent. And what I've learned is everybody operates differently. Some people have that quiet time in the morning at 4 a.m. or 5 a.m. I'm not a morning person. And I think the quicker that I realize that faith for me could be in the car, taking 20 minutes on the way to work and spending that time, whether it's listening to the Bible on tape, whether it's just getting some quiet time. Heck, it could be, reading when I'm on the crapper, whatever it is. I think sometimes, I think for me, I'm so free when it comes to time that I'm not one that has my schedule planned out. I really do operate on what's important now. And so since I know it's so important to me, that connection happens. I think the hardest part is that I'm not there in fellowship on Sundays. So I'm not in church on Sunday mornings with my family. I know a lot of times they think, does that mom exist? Does he really have a wife? Because I'm not there that often. And so I find other ways when I'm on the road. And a lot of it is just listening to different sermons. We have so much time, that you can put in those AirPods and just listen. And so I do a lot of reading on the road, a lot of listening to things. Unlike, Tim likes that quiet time with nothing on in the car. For me, I'm going to put something on, a quick teaching, anything I can get my hands on, and music, whether it's, I don't even know what station it is that I have on my XM, whatever, but it's like The Message or something, but it's a very uplifting station. So I think for you, it's just finding ways to get involved. And then that Thursday morning group, I think, has been my deal breaker, my non-negotiable, because, how many professions are there that you're named by your actual profession? Like a coach. And I think for so long, I want to be like, I'm more than a coach. Everybody, I'm all these other things. And so it was really important for me to get around other women who could care less that I'm a coach. And we can talk about things like faith, and we can talk about things like motherhood, and we can talk about our failures. We can talk about menopause. There's so many other things, to us as people And when you're a coach, everybody just wants to talk about, Indiana, the football game last weekend, or, gosh, did you guys play? Did you win? How'd the games go this weekend? And so I think just understanding what your identity is and finding ways to plug into your power source. And so for me, it's not real conventional. And so, I can't give you a blueprint with the exception of saying, hey, it's really important. And I know when I'm not charged. The other day I was laughing. I'm like, man, I need some word because some things were just flying out of my mouth. And I had one of my coaches in here and I said, grab that devotional for me, flip to it. And she's like, you haven't opened this since July. The marker's on July. And I said, well, I'm reading other things. But, I think getting in a daily routine, I think is really important. But you know what? Sometimes it's not as consistent as that. But you got to understand what your power source is and plug into that.
Thank you, Coach. Appreciate that. And you always keeping it real. That's why we keep inviting you back. We appreciate you very much. David, question for you. You've just done this at different stages of your life, but for coaches who are traveling a lot and making moves a lot, how can they find a new set of friends or network in the area, or just, have a group wherever they're going?
It takes time. Not only spending the last 27, 28 years coaching, I spent 4 years in the Air Force before that in about 8 different places. So, everybody used to always joke, hey, your last assignment's always your best, because everybody would talk about it. Any college coach that's had JUCO kids know all their JUCO kids do is talk about how great the JUCO was their first year. And then the next year they love their place. So it just takes time it can't happen overnight. But I think you got to embrace where you're at. You have to get out and get to know people. Like I mentioned, Shonda going, she was at Marshall a long time, and then she's at Indiana. I mean, she's fortunate. She's got her staff, the young lady from Indiana with her. You got to get out and meet people. They need to know, hey, I'm so-and-so, nice to meet you. And then when you see them the next time, you need to know their name, and not just go see them when you need something. I try to make a habit to go out and meet the people in housing, and meet the people in cafeteria, and meet the cashiers, the janitors, and know them by name. And, I think if you invest in people wherever you're at, that it pays dividends. Social media can be great and it can also be the devil, but I've got a lot of friends from all over the country and all over the schools and the places I've lived. I think you just have to invest in people. We went to a restaurant to eat the other night, and their credit card machine was down, and our waitress was like, no, you can't leave. And we've only been here a month. She's like, y'all are our favorite. I said, hey, my credit can't get it. I didn't have any cash. So you just got to invest in people wherever you're at, and embrace where you are, soak up the culture, and just dive right in. I think that's the key.
Thank you very much. Tim, question I'm going to start with for you. When players, coaches, whomever it might be, when they're dealing with something tough, I think there's 2 types of people, right? There's the compartmentalizers and the integrators. Some people want to bring, all their parts of life with them to their profession, and other people want to strictly stay, in the silos. Is it difficult for those people, to work together? Head coach is a compartmentalizer, assistant coach is an integrator, or vice versa. And how do you suggest maybe looking at the different options when you're trying to, deal with other things that are going in your life, and how you keep those either in or out of your work environment?
That's a hard question. That's a really hard question. And I think David mentioned hiring the best people. And I think it starts with there, rather than who's going to be the best fit for me, or who's going to, make me look good, et cetera, et cetera. It's not about you as a leader. It's about everyone else. Finding the best people is the start to that. As far as compartmentalizing versus integrating, we're all different. And most people will fit somewhere, the vast majority will fit somewhere in the middle of that, where some things get compartmentalized and some things cross over. I'm watching a 30 for 30 right now about Bill Parcells and Bill Belichick, how they talked about they were friendly, but they were never friends. And yet they worked together for for what is it, about 8 years, and were highly successful, but didn't hang out, didn't go and do things after games together. It was a business relationship where there was mutual respect, and Bill Belichick went and did his thing, and Bill Parcells went and did his thing. And they were very, very different people. One very outgoing, and of course, Bill Belichick, as we know, tends to be very introverted. Recognizing these can coexist and be successful is important. So looking for who is going to be the best person for this role, this program, our athletes, supersedes, are we going to be friends, right? How are we going to handle sharing a hotel room together, et cetera? That's superficial compared to the overall needs of the program. I don't know if I answered your question. It was a hard one.
It was, that's why you got it. Industry expert.
Oh,
Right?
thanks.
We established that early on. I felt like I could cut the tension in that 30 for 30 with a knife in some of the parts of that episode. That was really interesting to me. I don't know anybody else wants to watch it. It was an inner dynamic. I thought it was really interesting. Kim, coming to you with this one. You talked a little bit about it earlier, but when a student athlete is dealing with something that requires them to take a step back, whether it's a death in the family or a very stressful academic time, how do you talk to them about recognizing the need to step back and being able to do that in a way where their teammates and their coaches and others understand and aren't judging them or feeling like they're sliding their responsibility to the team?
I think we are fortunate to have a lot of resources on campus available to us, and family's always first, and you know, their mental health is our top priority. And if I see that they're not in a good place, you know, the best thing I can do is get them help and get them, you know, to take a step back, maybe for, you know, whether it's just a day or, you know, and kind of have a professional help me with that. Have them, you know, maybe chat with one of our psychologists that we have in our department or at the university. That's always that's easy, you know, for me to have them step away. And I think we talk about it enough with our team that you know, their mental health, they know that is always the top priority in our program. And you know, they understand. They're very, I mean, I've never fortunately had an issue with that. And but you know, I have had many players that I've had talk with somebody, and you know, I try to do as much as I can, but there's people that are much better at it and professionals, and that's what they're there for. So I think they're only, you know, they need to take care of themselves, and that's always an easy situation. So
Thank you very much. And it can be very difficult for them, you know, even just to work through. So I appreciate that insight. I think I have gotten to everyone's question, a lot of private messages in this one. So if you have asked something that I did not answer, put it in the chat again, and I'll get to it after we do this last around the horn. But panelists, I just want to come back through. And if you know me, you know I'm big on the parting words of wisdom or piece of advice or something you haven't gotten to share yet. So when you think about this topic, and it's huge, there's so many directions you can go. I'm trying to buy you some time to think right now. You know, what thing would you offer to those who are trying to take control of their time, trying to be more present, trying to get the most out of themselves that maybe we haven't heard yet, or you think is worth repeating? Tim, you get to kick us off one more time.
Yeah, thanks for giving me all that time to think about it. Okay, so I talked at the beginning about organizational methods to reduce stress and help avoid burnout. Let me mention some personal ones. And if anybody's interested in the article that I got all this from, feel free to send me an email and I'll be happy to share it with you. But connecting with a mentor, we already mentioned, is a big one. Exercise is also big. And it's not just for the sake of getting exercise, but we know the positive benefits of exercise. We know it affects mental state. We know it affects physical state. My wife allows me to go and train regularly because she knows it's basically my therapy. That's what I need to get rid of all of the stuff that's gone on that day. I have to go exercise. Prioritize and set limits. I talked about saying no. Find ways for renewal. A lot of coaches are dissuaded from taking vacations because, oh, you're going to miss recruiting or you're going to miss X, Y, and Z. Take the vacation. Take it. And then there's also some research has shown some unexpected ways to reduce stress. And I'm not going to say these will work for everybody, but one of them is chewing gum. That's been found to reduce stress. Using tactile activation. So actually touching something specific, which reminds you to take a breath or slow down or think positive thoughts, whatever. Laughter. So if you can find maybe a show that you enjoy watching, maybe in the evening, watch that 20-minute comedy or whatever, helps to reduce that stress and just kind of let things go. And then the last one, which is kind of interesting, aquarium viewing. Watching fish has been found to reduce stress. So maybe that's in your future, having an aquarium in your house so you can watch your fish. It didn't work so well in ours. We got some frogs that were special frogs and we found out they ate all the fish. The end. So the last thing I'll add, we did research on coaches in Division I and Division II to look at, are there differences in stress? We predicted there would be higher levels of stress in Division I coaches compared to Division II. These were swimming coaches. We found there weren't. And what we found was what stressed coaches was different based on the level they were in. So for Division I coaches who may not necessarily have so many responsibilities, such as maybe even teaching classes or handling student affairs or student athlete things or booking hotels and etc. They found that very stressful in Division II because they had so many things they had to deal with versus Division I, where there may be a higher expectation for winning or maybe more responsibilities to raise funds, etc. So understand that everybody's situation will be different. The kind of stress you experience will be different, but find the ways that work for you, not necessarily the ones that you'll read on Google.
Thank you very much. Extremely helpful. David, what about you? Last piece of advice?
Well, the best advice as far as coaching I heard was in 2000 at a FCA coaches retreat at Black Mountain, North Carolina. The speaker, he was a preacher, but a coach's son, Chad Sparks, and he was telling all us coaches, he said, I know all y'all worried about coaching and your team. And he said, you need to worry about your team at home first and foremost. That was eye-opening to me because my daughters were 4 and 5 at the time. And all I was worried about was I had been a college coach for 2 years and was spending a ridiculous amount of time away from their lives, missing birthday parties and school activities. So that to me, we need to realize as coaches that your family, your friends, that needs to come first. Your family, and family doesn't have to be blood. It can be somebody that's extremely loyal to you. But I missed a lot of my kids growing up because of being a college coach. Might have seen 1 or 2 high school games a year. Fortunately, both of them played for me and had the opportunity to coach with me, so we made up a lot of time in those 4 or 5 years. But I think we need to open our programs up to a family atmosphere. I've had a lot of coaches that have had children and had babies in the office and babies in the locker room, because when I was a young coach, my kids lived in the athletic training room, and I would always go say, I'll get them. They're like, no, they're fine. So I remember those lessons when people mentored me as a young parent, because, I've hired young females before, and they're offered them jobs, and they're like, well, I got bad news. I'm like, what? I'm pregnant. I'm like, so what? That's a blessing from God. What? But you don't want to hire me, do you? I'm like, I don't care. So embrace the family, embrace people bringing kids to work. I know some places are not like that, but if you can allow it. dogs and cats have always been allowed at my office because some people don't have kids and their animals are their families. So, you know, if you create a family atmosphere and put your family first, it'll keep things in perspective. And certainly our teams are our family, but you know, that helps you create balance because too many coaches have sacrificed their home life and lost it. So you've gotta take care of that.
Thank you very much. I'm not going to mess up the alpha order again. Kim, last thoughts or parting words?
I think just since I'm getting older, I think it's really important to just have a balance of family, your work life, and also your hobbies and the things that you like to do that are outside of maybe those things. I think you need to, you need to take care of yourself, I think, to be able to help others. And, this coaching isn't going to be forever, and you're going to, the more hobbies and things outside of coaching, I think you have, the transition will be easier. And I think it's good for people just to have that balance, and for your team or your family to see you happy and have that balance and joy and other things is really important. And I think it makes you a better leader, and you can be passionate about coaching and playing and not have to, do it 24/7. I think that it's all doable, and just remember that we get to do these things. Most of the time we don't have to. These are all choices, and so enjoy them, enjoy it. And those are my parting words.
Thank you very much, Coach. I love it. And Coach Stanton, cleanup hitter tonight.
Thanks, Doc. Yeah, gosh, if I drop dead tonight, there's going to be a new person in this chair tomorrow. And so I'm really starting to look at life differently, and just kind of what my greater purpose is, and just how I can be a blessing to others. And, we're just all teammates for life. And, some of us, maybe this is the first time meeting tonight, but I look forward to reaching out to Tim and, getting that little cheat sheet article from him. And, I liked what he said about finding a show. If you haven't watched Ted Lasso, laugh a little bit. It's been a great show that I've gotten into. But, I think it's just so important, just every day to wake up, and just be so thankful and grateful for that day, and just live it to its fullest. And, if you have a chance, Google the sacred breath. There's a book, and I don't know if the name of the book is either Breath or Breathe by Nestor, I think is the author, but a good book that I had read. But, just really taking the pause and really breathing each day. And I know I'm doing a much better job of waking up and really, saying, gosh, what do I really want to accomplish today? And I've got this daily motto that I have by my desk. But basically it's a quote by, and I can't remember, Thomas Dekker, and it's how you want to waste your day. And I think every day I read that, and it kind of really centers me. And, I'm just trying to live every moment. I think when you look at success, it's built sequentially. It's not built simultaneously. And so I think it's just about stacking good choices, and, making one decision after the next, and showing up for the people that are most important in your life. And so that's what I'm trying to do a better job of right now. So I appreciate you taking the time to remind me of that, getting on here. I know over this past weekend, we went up to Chicago on Saturday. It was the first time that my husband wasn't available for one of my kids' activities. So usually I've gone away and somebody's been there, and he had a work commitment. And I was this close to calling my coaches and saying, hey, I'll meet you up in Chicago tonight. But I just kind of felt like I should go, and I went, and I did. I missed my daughter's soccer game. She scored two goals, but I told her, you know what, we'll watch it on video, and we'll get some popcorn, and we'll watch that. And then I'm going to have the team over next week. So you find opportunities to fill. And so I would say lastly with that is, you can't be everywhere. You can't be all things to all people every time, but be patient with yourself, give grace to yourself, just wake up thankful every day and live it to its fullest.
Well, thank you very much. And thank you, Dave Hines in our office. If you don't know Dave, he's the world's fastest Googler. So he's got the link there for you. And then also Tim's article is there, and we can put those on the forums page as well. So when you come back to watch this again, we can have that linked for you there. But thank you everyone for joining us and learning more about this, and just knowing that it is an ongoing struggle and you are never going to be the master. And we didn't even get to touch on guilt, which is one of the biggest things with the time and work life and all of that, but let it go. Friends, if you haven't watched Frozen, if you're not fortunate enough to watch that every other night like I am in my house, just let that on out of your system, because it's not going to help you with anything. But again, thank you all for being here. If you have any questions or have ideas for future Educate to Elevates, we'd love to hear about it. We are back in October, and we're going to be talking about inclusion, and specifically how inclusion relates to coaching with disabilities. And it's really going to be amazing. So excited about that. Mark your calendar and get the online calendar, nfca.org, so you don't miss another event ever again. But thank you all. Have a wonderful evening. We'll see you next time. Appreciate you. See ya.